moving on then, once you get through the nutrition deficiencies, talking about macronutrients, again, depending on the type of athlete you are and what your goals are, and even what sport you're competing in, you're going to need some type of balance of protein, carb, and fat. And this is where it gets a little hairy for people, because sometimes it's hard to kind of know how much do of this and how much of this, and we really recommend, especially with younger athletes and even older athletes too, but you need to be pretty balanced within your approach, especially if you're a high-level athlete and you're working out, 5, 6, 7 days a week. I mean, you can get really, techie with it, and you can carb cycle and carb backload and carb front load, carb end load. You can do a lot of, really, scientific stuff with this. Sometimes it's just too hard, and it takes too much time, and you have enough to worry about. There's enough stress going on. So we like the idea of just kind of using your hand as reference. So Lauren's going to talk about how we all have hands.
We all have hands.
And we can use them.
So this thing right here is my hand. So looking at protein, carb, and fat. For protein, basically looking at a palm-sized portion. So that could be like a 4 to 5 ounce chicken breast. That can be a hamburger. That could be a little fillet of salmon. Protein, anything that is lean protein meat source. Carb then is going to be about a handful. So you pick up a handful of berries. It basically turns out to be about a cup, but
A cupped handful.
yeah.
Not like just a cup.
No, like the sound effects. Ging, ging. All right, so you're looking at about just a handful. So that's not saying you're going to sit there eating an entire container of strawberries or raspberries, but a little handful to go with everything else you're eating with your meal. And then fat turns out to be about a thumb. So for guys, maybe you could do 2 thumbs, but if you look at your thumb, it turns out to be about 6 almonds. I know it seems very small and silly, but the amount of fat that is in 6 almonds is more than you realize, and you really don't need a whole lot of fat, but you do need some fat. Okay, fat is very important.
And there's typically fat in the protein. So if you're having hamburger or something like that, there's some fat mixed into that. So this is just kind of a little bit extra to kind of again help kind of balance the system.
Yeah.
A lot of people I think forget about the like if they cook their food in something, if they cook their food in a fish oil, yeah, absolutely. There's your thumb of fat right there.
Don't do any extra.
Yeah, you don't necessarily need to go and just start eating the stick of butter. I need more fat. Like maybe that's not a good idea.
Drink the bacon grease.
Yes, I need my thumb up bit. Yeah. Anywho, but then the last thing is, and this does kind of go with the carbs, but we do like the idea, like we were talking about earlier with the macronutrients or micronutrients, eating as many veggies as we can. And veggie-wise, Lauren, how much veggie do we need?
This times 5. 5 fists of veggies.
On a day.
Yeah.
Not at once.
Right. Yes. In a day. All right.
Bloating. Too many veggies.
5 fists of veggies throughout the day. So this can be, throw in a handful of spinach in your eggs in the morning when you scramble them. This can be, it's kind of like a cup of broccoli. If you have steam bags, 1 steam bag can last you for like 2 meals throughout the day. Have a cup at lunch, maybe a cup at dinner, and even eating a little handful of, a fist, not a handful, a fist of carrots. So just try to spread it out throughout the day, but it really helps with digestion, and it helps with getting those micronutrients in throughout the day. So eat veggies with your meals. It kind of slows down the digestion process, and also veggies take a long time to chew and to work and grind down. So to take the time to eat those is also going to help you kind of make sure that you're intuitively eating and eating the correct amounts, because we're right here with our macros. We're looking at eating smart amounts of all of these with every meal. You don't want to eat all your protein in the morning and all your fat at night. It's a little bit of everything, and eating veggies with all of those helps that process.
And again, depending on the athlete, and I'm totally guessing some things here, but if you're a female athlete, or whatever, you're probably good with one of these. You're probably good with 1 palm of protein for a meal, each meal. Yep, 1 palm of protein for a meal, 1 handful of carbs, 1 thumb of fat, and one fist of veggies for a meal, and that should be a perfect meal for you. So you should be able to look at your plate and be like, hey, veggies, protein, carbs, fat, and you're just doing hand signals. If you're a guy, you're a football player, you're more muscle mass, you're huge, you might be better with 2, or you might need 2, in order to sustain you. So again, you're taking the same thing, except now you take 2 palms of protein. You take 2 fists of veggies. Same idea. We want this to be pretty, again, balanced, like Lauren's saying here, balanced with this. We don't want to eat nothing but Lucky Charms in the morning, which would be nothing but carb and almost straight sugar and almost like straight crack. So we stay away from crack. You know, but we're looking for it. Now, not saying that you can't, you know, get creative with this a little bit, okay? If you're a bigger athlete, if you're a stronger athlete, you know, as a female, you might have to bump up to maybe 1.5 of those things. Or if you're a smaller guy, maybe you bump that down a little bit. Or maybe if you're a bigger guy, maybe you have to eat, you know, instead of 3 or 4 meals a day, maybe you have to eat 5 meals a day. So this is just kind of relative, but we do like the idea of being consistent with the type of food that you're getting, but not so neurotic that you have to log everything into your appy wappy on your iPhone, you know, so you don't absolutely lose your mind. You're able, you know, we carry our hands around with us wherever we go, and you're able to stay relatively consistent with what you're trying to do.
And the beautiful thing about this is we're not robots, and we all have different shapes and sizes, and so my hand is differently shaped than Adam's hand in size proportions. So as Adam was saying, a smaller guy and a bigger guy are going to have different sizes of hands, and that will help them measure their foods. But with all of this is a baseline, total baseline. Test it. Start with this. Wow, if you're starving after your meal, well, 1, maybe you ate too fast, but 2, maybe it's not enough. We'll give you the benefit of the doubt. Then you add and play with it. So it's totally scalable depending on who you are and what level you're performing at.
But you should, and really at the end of it, you should be able to ask, hey, how do I feel an hour later, 2 hours later, 3 hours later, your next workout? Hey, how did I feel? I ate this and then I worked out. How do I feel? Well, as long as you're staying pretty balanced, you're 90% of the way there. I mean, you're killing it. You're killing it.